do that? How did you do that?
Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today I'm going to be giving you a brand new build to the channel. This one is called Sting, mostly because he does stabby stuff and he's really small. But this is actually a stamina Nightblade for PVE. Now I know people have been waiting for it for quite some time, but I deliberately held back on it for a while because Zos has changed a lot of things with Nightblades over the last 3 patches or so. So I didn't want to make something that was definitely going to be changed within a few weeks' time. There was no point. So if there are any updates coming that do change it, obviously that can't be helped, but there were some dramatic ones. But now we seem to be in quite a comfortable place as far as class balancing is concerned in PvE, so now this is ready. Now, first of all, I'm going to go into the stats. Make sure we pop a potion first of all. We are sitting on 17.6k max health, 34k max stamina, 1002 recovery, 58.8% crit chance. That actually goes up to 64.8 with our passives and bonuses applied, and also 3.17 for weapon damage, which actually goes to 3.7, almost 3.8. Now, we are sitting on 64 points of max stamina, no attribute points elsewhere. We are using the Lovermunder Stone, we are Vampire, of course, and we're using max health, max stamina food. Vampire is recent to this particular character. I used to be Werewolf, but Vampire has actually outperformed in lots and lots of testing, especially on PTS and other characters and all that good stuff. So this particular character has changed to Vampire, and I'll go over that in the passives as well. Now, I'm going to go over the skills in detail. I will explain them all. I'll explain where they come from, what morphs they need to be changed into, how to apply them, what they do, all that good stuff. If you think you know all already, you are more than welcome to skip. But if you do skip, you are at risk of asking questions that have already been answered, and I will not answer those comments in the comment section below. So, just a disclaimer there, if you skip, it's at your own risk. Now, first of all, we are using Deadly Cloak as our first ability. This is in a dual-wield skill line. 4th ability you unlock starts off as Blade Cloak, morph it to Deadly Cloak. Now what this will do is this will turn you into nice shininess with loads of blades flying around you. Once every 3 seconds that will do damage to nearby targets. And while it's active, it will grant you a bonus to mitigation. Basically all area of effect damage that you take will be reduced by 25%. So you're really tanky and you apply damage and area of effect as well. Now just be aware, of course, this is expensive. It's not spammable. It lasts 15 seconds, so apply it once and then reapply it when it's about to run out again. Don't spam it. Next ability is Rearming Trap. This is in the Fighters Guild skill line. The 5th ability you unlock, so it takes quite a while to get here, but once you have it, starts off as Trap Beast, morph it to Rearming Trap. Now, very simple. Trap on the ground, catches the enemy inside. Now that immobilizes the target on the spot. Now bosses cannot be immobilized. However, this still does apply in terms of damage and bonuses. Now what this does, when it activates, is gives you a 6-second physical damage over time to the target. And then once it's finished, it will rearm again. Also what this does is grants you minor force. So while this is active, you will get that buff and this will increase your critical damage by 10%. So any crit hits that you achieve will be improved. Now next ability is Relentless Focus. This is in the Assassination skill line. It's a 5th ability you unlock. Starts off as Grim Focus, morph it to Relentless Focus. While active, looks like this. Very easy. You will grant yourself minor berserk, increasing your damage done by 8%, all the damage you do, and will increase your stamina recovery by 10% as well in the form of minor endurance. Yes, you can get minor berserk and minor endurance from other people. You can get minor berserk from combat prayer, for example, from a healer, and everybody else can get it as well. So why should you slot this? Well, this does apply to us regardless of whether it's present or not. They don't stack, however, but this has a hidden perk to it as well. This actually turns into a completely different ability if you apply 5 light attacks. Now it says all heavy attacks, but that has been changed and the tooltip is not accurate. 5 light attacks will give you the new ability, which will be half the cost, and it will fire a spectral bow in doing disease damage and direct damage, or direct hit. But each light attack gives you 1 point, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then you can fire the bow. Each heavy attack gives you 2, so you can do 2 heavies and 1 light and still fire the bow. Now, how this is applied, if you look here, ignore any effects that happen. I don't want too many spoilers, but it's kind of tough. So, 1 heavy, 1 light, 1 heavy, and there's your bow. Or, light attack, light attack, light attack, light attack, and there's your bow again. See, it changes to a purple ability. So, if you light attack ability 5 times, or 4 times in fact, and then light, there's your free hit, or your cheap hit rather, not free anymore. Or heavy, that's 2, Heavy, that's 2. 1 light attack, that's 5. So you've got 2 choices. You can do 5 lights or 2 heavies and a light. If you do 3 heavies, you obviously stacked up 6, which is overkill, and you've got it anyway, so there's no point. But I will explain that in more detail when we get to the rotation, because we have a very, very well calculated rotation which allows you to fire this every front bar rotation twice. That is calculated and put into the rotation as a static. You will get this guaranteed, rather than you having to keep an eye on 5 stacks and actually fire it off, which is really tricky for some people. This is going to be explained in detail and made a lot easier for those of you trying to get the Nightblade down or struggling with any other Nightblade rotations that are out there. Now, the next ability is Surprise Attack. This is in our Shadow skill line. It's the first ability we unlock. It starts off as Veiled Strike. Morph it to Surprise Attack. This is your main spammable. Not only does this do high damage to single target, but this also applies Major Fracture to the target, reducing its physical resistance. That is a debuff. So for you and everybody else, if you're doing physical damage, you will do more damage to the target because of this. It's exactly the same as Pierce Armor, which tanks traditionally use as their sword and board ability to apply a taunt and debuff the target. So, when you see skeleton passes out there and people shout about how their Nightblade is doing solo DPS, but then you see other people using a tank to taunt maybe their Stamplar or something like that, that is for the sake of balancing the test out. Obviously, there are class passives and other bonuses that do not make it balanced as such, but Major Fracture is still applied in that instance, meaning that you're both getting the same physical penetration, so you should be able to get a more accurate example of how you can perform. So, Major Fracture is a debuff. It's not just a bonus for this skill. Some classes have it, some classes don't. So, always have a tank present if you're testing. If you don't have this. Now, our next ability is Killer's Blade. That is in the Assassination skill line. So, first ability to unlock. This is your main execute. Starts off as Assassin's Blade. Morph it to Killer's Blade for the Stamina morph. Now, this does really low damage if you hit the target in a normal situation. So, if he's got loads of health and you start firing this, you're doing it wrong. You only use this while the target is under 25% health, because if you do, you will deal an additional 300% extra damage. Now, obviously, if the target dies within 2 seconds of being struck by this, you will actually heal for 20% of your max health as well. So obviously use it on adds to keep your health up. But on the main boss, if you start hitting him from 25% and under, this will do more damage. And I don't mean 4 or 5k or maybe 10k. This will go up to 50 plus. It's insane. This is your main spammable execute, but you must be close to apply it. Now, our ultimate on our front bar is Incapacitating Strike. This is in the Assassination skill line. This is really cheap and really strong. 70 ultimate is all it costs. It does disease damage in initial direct damage as you activate it, like a single target hit. But that target that you just hit will have all of your damage applied to it increased by 20% for 6 seconds. It's really powerful. So you want to use this as much as possible. The rotation will allow you to fire it every second rotation, almost guaranteed. But if you are killing lots of Undead, Daedra, and Werewolf, when we get to the Fighter Skill passives, that'll make a bit more sense. You will have this up really often. Sometimes you can even overlap them. It's disgusting. Now, this also has a different effect. So, basically, it will do this. So that spin and flip, that is if you have 120 ultimate or more, or it will just do a straight stab if you have 70 ultimate. The 120 is a change to the skill, and that will stun the target for 4.5 seconds, as well as doing all of the extra damage. If it's a boss, it can't be stunned anyway, so that's not that relevant in PvE, unless, of course, you're jumping on an ad, in which case, go for it. But that's mostly for PvP application, or maybe some solo stuff. But regardless, you need to use this as much as possible. It's very strong. Now, it starts off, again, as Deathstroke. You want to morph it to Incapacitating Strike. And by the way, you need to be level 12 in this skill line to unlock it. Back bar. Resolving Vigor. Now, Resolving Vigor is in the Assault skill line. You will need to go to PvP to unlock this. I would recommend going into Battlegrounds, because if you suck at PvP or you just don't like it, you will actually gain alliance points even if you lose. So I would recommend getting into Battlegrounds. Kick ass if you can. If you can't, don't worry about it. Just get in, get your points, get out. Get Resolving Vigor. This is your main kind of oh shit heal button. This will heal you and 5 other people around you for 5 seconds. Do not spam it, because all it will do is reactivate the skill. Just leave it running. It's a tick heal. It has a duration. If you need to use it twice, use it again when it runs out. Now, Poison Injection. Oh, by the way, that's Vigor. Morph it to Resolving Vigor. It actually levels up really fast. You kill like 3 or 4 mammoths and it's done. Poison Injection. This is your main kind of passive execute. Very simple. Shot at the target, and it does damage every 2 seconds. Now, this is a really strong dot to start with, but it gets more aggressive the lower the target's health. While under 50% health, the targets can take up to an additional 260% extra damage. So you've got that execute power there, alongside of our spammable execute and killer's blade. You can kill stuff really, really quick when they go low health. Now, this is in the bow skill line, and it is the 5th ability you unlock. Starts off as Poison Arrow, morph it to Poison Injection. It takes some time to get there. You might want to double bar your bow abilities to level them up passively while you get XP. As you can see, I got 49 in this skill line instead of 50 because I've been dumb enough to not hand in quests on the right bar. But I would recommend double barring the skill until it's maxed. Now, the next ability is an Assault also. This is Razor Caltrops. Under Vigor, you need Assault skill line level 6 for this. Again, go into Battlegrounds, get loads of points if you can. Failing that, if you lose, don't worry. You'll still get points towards this and you can unlock it. Starts off as Caltrops, morph it to Razor Caltrops. Again, you may want to double bar this while leveling, otherwise it will take some time. Now, this applies a big area of effect ability on the ground. The first hit as it lands will do physical damage, and then it will do damage every 1 second to every target inside of this. Keep this down all the time. Do not spam it, however, because it is expensive. Next up is Leeching Strikes. Now this, when you activate it, any light attacks or heavy attacks that you do will restore 1495 health, which can crit, and it will restore 106 stamina, and the whole bonus lasts for 20 seconds. But if it runs out, you will gain back 4270 additional stamina, so you actually fill your pool up with it if it runs out. If it doesn't run out and you reapply it, however much it is stacked up over time is how much you will claim back. So, for example, if we see it there, it's 19 seconds. We'll actually waste some stamina and hold block so we don't recover any. Now, I cannot recover stamina while I'm holding block. But this gives us 4.2k back if it runs out. But if you apply it before it runs out, you can still take the stamina bonus. However much it's stacked up, you can take. Very similar to Rally, except Rally gives you health and this gives you stamina. You want to keep this up in your rotation 100% of the time if you can. And if you can't, reapply it at least after it's run out. Otherwise, you're in trouble. Don't keep it down for more than a second or so, otherwise your recovery is going to be on a bit of a strain. Now, this is in the Siphoning skill line. It's the 4th ability to unlock, so you will have to slot some of these to start with while leveling, which is a pain in the ass because we don't use any of these as stamina DPS, but you will have to unlock them first to get this. Then you can just dump your points later. But it starts off as Siphoning Strikes, morph it to Leeching Strikes for the stamina variation of it. Next up is Endless Hail. Now, this is in the bow skill line as well. 2nd ability to unlock. This will put a damage over time area of effect ability on the ground, just like Caltrops, except it's much more aggressive. Caltrops lasts 12 seconds and sits there. This lasts 10 seconds and sits a little bit smaller in area of effect, but this will do damage every half a second, not every 1 second. So keep these two up at all times. With the Maelstrom Bow as well, you do not want this to run out for more than a second, otherwise you're going to lose a lot of damage. Keep that up. Again, don't spam it, let it run through its duration. Now, Flawless Dawnbreaker. This is in the Fighters Guild skill line. You need Fighters Guild level 10 for this. If you don't have it, you can just double bar Incapacitate and Strike, but don't use Incapacitate and Strike on your back bar with this particular setup because it underperformed. Make sure you do it on the front bar, so then all your main spammables are taking advantage of your rotation damage, if you like, rather than just using it on the back when you're applying buffs and redots. Now, this is on the bar just for passives. You put this on your bar and you gain 5% increased weapon damage. Yes, you could put it on the front bar, but again, during the rotation for this particular build, it underperformed swapping these around. It actually did more putting this on the back to passively improve what we were doing on the back bar, while our front bar was our main spam ball with our ultimate. It made a big difference. So I know there are some builds out there that are really complex. You have to swap bars all the time, go to the back, put on an ultimate, go to the front, fire off your spectral bow, blah blah. When they're ready, instead this rotation is set in stone where everything will nicely slot together to lessen any complications as far as the Nightblade is concerned. Everything is done nice and smooth and everything fits together. So this on your back bar. It's not that I don't know it exists, it's that I'm using it for simplicity and it works really well. Now, passives we want to go into. So, first of all, Assassination skill. Now, you don't need all of these, but you can get them if you want. This increases your weapon and spell damage by 10% while you are sneaking or invisible, and increases the duration of stun from sneak. This isn't actually essential for PvE unless you're sneaking around killing stuff, so you don't have to get this if you don't want to. When an enemy dies within 2 seconds of being damaged by one of your assassination abilities, you restore 1876 magicka or stamina, depending on which one is highest. Of course, our stamina pool is higher than our mag pool, so you will get stamina back as long as your assassination ability hits something within its 2 seconds of its death. Now, of course, this is an assassination ability, so if you hit something with an execute and actually kill it, you get resources back. In fact, almost the same amount as it cost to kill it. Other abilities as well, of course, you've got Spectral Bow from your Relentless Focus, or you've got your Execute, your Ultimate, so any of these 3 abilities will count. Also, increases the weapon crit and spell crit ratings by 4, 3, 8 for each assassination ability slotted. We actually have 3, so we get a 1, 3, 1, 4 crit rating to both types. Also, increases your critical damage while slotting an assassination ability by 10%. Now, also if you do deal crit damage, so if you get a crit from a light attack or anything, you'll get minus savagery, increasing your weapon crit by 1320 for 20 seconds. That's for you and your group, up to 6 people, including yourself. So any crit you get will proc this passive, which is why our crit rating is higher than it says in our stats. And of course, bear in mind that we don't have an assassination ability on our back bar, so we don't get a 10% increase to crit damage on the back bar. But what you can do if you want to be a little bit anal about it and get a tiny, tiny bonus of extra damage, in testing, by the way, it was only about 300 to 500 extra damage, and most of the time it didn't even apply anyway. It was very, very close. But you can drop Vigor. If you want to do that, you're going to be squishier, but you can take advantage of Reaper's Mark. If you put this on, starts off as Mark Target, morph it to Reaper's Mark, you will actually debuff the target with Major Breach and Major Fracture, which isn't necessary because the tank does it anyway generally, but at least you get that bonus regardless. But if you mark the target and it dies while it's active, you will heal for 60% of your max health, which is absolutely insane. So there's your survivability there. And you will grant yourself Major Berserk, increasing all of the damage that you do by 25% for 5 seconds. So, in those instances, if there's an ad here, and you mark him and quickly kill him, then hit this target with your ultimate and start spamming it, you are stacking bonuses for damage horrendously. It's absolutely insane. So you can take advantage of this in certain situations. Most boss fights it won't apply, but if you do get used to this, especially in big trash pools, you can do a lot of damage in a small period of time. It's absolutely insane. So if you wanted to, you can swap to this ability. You can add it into your rotations occasionally, and for doing so, you will then of course take advantage of this passive, increasing your critical damage while on your back bar. It will fill a tiny, tiny gap. It's risky, but if you can get to grips with it, sure, go for it. But for everyday use, I would slot Vigor and just go without the buff on the back bar, and it actually doesn't make that much difference. So your passive DPS overall, if not using the mark, is really close. But again, like I said, if you want to go that extra mile, you want to take advantage of that particular skill and go a little bit more expert with it, then you are more than welcome to. Shadow. Now, this will increase your health, stamina, and magic recovery by 15%, which is crazy. Make sure you get it. This casting the Shadow ability grants you Major Resolve and Major Ward for 6 seconds, increasing your physical and spell resistance by 5280, the opposite of the debuff, so you get resistance buff rather than a resistance debuff. This duration is increased by 25% per heavy armor piece worn. We are only using 1 piece, so we get 25% bonus. So for 7.5 seconds, if we use a Shadow ability, which for us is actually damage, that we actually get a resistance buff. Most classes have to slot an extra buff to get that resistance buff. It's a buff type. We just have to hit stuff with surprise attack. Easy as that. Tanky as hell by doing damage. Play aggressive. Dark Vigor increases the max health for having an ability slotted from this skill line, 3% from that one ability, and increases duration of your abilities as well. Obviously, this does apply a debuff as well, which isn't necessary for the main target because, of course, the tank has a taunt, but if there's other adds and stuff as well, you can debuff them along the way if you start hitting them. And the duration is increased, of course, for this passive. Siphoning, now you want some of these as well, especially this one. 20 ultimate gain just for taking a potion. That's insane. Get it as soon as possible. Increase your max magicka by 8% while siphon ability is slotted. We only have it on the back bar, so if you are using Reaper's Mark, it will contribute a little bit, but you don't have to. So that passive is a bit meh. That's up to you. Increases your healing done by 3% for each ability slotted. Front bar we have nothing. Back bar we have 1. So we do get a stronger vigor while on the back bar. Although it's based off of weapon damage and max stats anyway, so on the front bar we still get a really, really close heal from it. So they're kind of trade-off against each other. But this you want to get as well. Casting a Siphoning ability grants you 2 ultimate. This effect can happen once every 4 seconds. We are using a Siphoning ability. We are using Siphoning Strikes. And every time you activate it per rotation, which is way over 4 seconds, we will get 2 ultimate for it. Now, dual wield, of course you want to get every single one of these. They help towards your damage, your sustain, and of course your passives for different weapon types. This will increase the damage that you do with dual wield while the target's under 25%. So your lights, your heavies, your deadly cloak, and of course your execute already does damage under 25% anyway, are all going to contribute. So it's really, really nice. Now, also, our offhand weapon does actually do less damage. That's how the game is built, but the weapon on your offhand is increased by 6% for this passive here. This will reduce the cost, which we do need to do because Deadly Cloak is expensive. This will give you a 15% damage bonus to anything that is CC'd, whether it's be unmobilized, disorientated, or stunned, so off balance and all that good stuff as well. We do extra damage. And this will also grant you a couple of bonuses. We've got 1 dagger and 1 axe, regardless of the cosmetics you can see. That's a costume or an outfit. Your axe has an 8% chance to apply a 10k over 6-second bleed, which can crit, of course. Bleeds ignore resistances, so that's a flat amount. But, like I said, it can crit. And the dagger increases our crit rating, so we have a higher crit chance for having the dagger as well. The bow, yes, I know this should be 50, but I keep handing in quests on the wrong friggin' bar. Now, this, you are going to need these. This will improve the damage of your bow abilities at range. So the longer the range, the better. Obviously, we're close range, so that's not a necessary passive. But on the run into a fight, you can apply your bow abilities, and maybe you're running through mechanics, and you have to get some distance. While they're active, they will improve. So it is quite nice for those situations. This will increase your weapon crit while on your bow bar. This will reduce the stamina cost of the abilities, which is obviously essential because they are expensive. This, every time you do a light attack or a heavy attack, you will stack up a 5% bonus to your bow damage, or your bow ability damage. We do fire about 3 light attacks on the back bar, so we will get a 15% bonus from that. You don't need to go the full 25%, because while you're on the front bar, it's going to fall off anyway. So take advantage of what you can with this passive, which for us is about 3. Also, this one, if you dodge roll, you will gain major expedition. So basically, if you dodge roll first and then run, you are faster. It lasts for 4 seconds if you max it out. Yes, I know I need a skill point to max it and another level to finish bow off, but that's a really important one as well for evasion. Light armor, of course, you don't need to get these, but they are nice bonuses. I've only been wearing 1 light piece for a short period of time, so still got to level this up. Most of the time I was using 7 medium, but I felt a bit too squishy. So if you have these, you will get a bonus to reduction to snare effectiveness, which is quite nice for each piece worn. You will get a magical recovery bonus, which isn't necessarily essential because we're not using magical abilities, and reduction to cost as well. But of course, if you are using Reaper's Mark, that does cost magic, so that will contribute. And this gives us 3, 6, 3 spell resistance as well. So these are tiny bonuses. If you don't have the points, they're not essential. But if you do have the extra points, then of course, something's better than nothing. 5 medium armor pieces we are wearing, so we can take advantage of all of these, although this one's not that essential for PvE unless you're stealing stuff. This will increase your critical weapon rating for each piece of medium armor worn. We get 1, 6, 4, 3 for 5 pieces. This will increase your stamina recovery by 20% based on the amount worn and reduce the cost of your stamina abilities. This one is for sneaking, so you can leave it if you want. This one will increase your weapon damage by 15%. And now this will reduce your cost of dodge roll and your cost of sprinting. So if you are running around, try not to because you'll waste your stamina. It will be cheaper. But if you're dodge rolling as well, that will also be cheaper. And that is our main force of evasion. We're using the same pool for our damage as we are for our evasion, so make sure that you do get the cost down. Heavy armor, of course, as these are not hugely essential, although Juggernaut I would say is. 1 piece of heavy armor will give us 2% increase to our max health. You do want to get your health up a little bit, especially passively, because you don't have to do anything, you just put it on and it's done. This is very, very important alongside the rest of our recovery if you can spare the points. You will get 108 magicka and stamina back once every 4 seconds for being hit or for taking damage. This will actually go alongside of our heavy attacks and our leeching strikes and all that kind of stuff. They all stack, and our base recovery as well. So if you have got the points, I would recommend getting this. And this one will give you a small resistance to physical and spell resistance as well, 3, 6, 2. So it's tiny, but if you've got the points, go for it. Now, we are a vampire, of course. This was a werewolf, and he's being changed to vampire because I use vampire in PvE on all my stamina setups, in fact, all my magical ones as well. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the passive and why they're so important, I will explain them, although they're not maxed on this particular character. 10% increase to stamina recovery and mag recovery just for being a vampire. Nice and easy. And of course, this one here, Undeaf. Now, that isn't showing any changes because I haven't upgraded it, but what that does is while you are under 50% health, you will take up to a maximum of 33% less damage for being a vampire. It's absolutely insane. You get tankier and tankier the lower your health, meaning less risk factor and more chance of survival, and the healers can get to you while you're low health rather than you dip into 0 and there's nothing they can do about it. It really, really helps. Don't be scared of fire, just learn how to mitigate it or learn how to get out of it. Now, Fighters Guild, you are going to need these. This will reduce the cost of your Fighters Guild abilities. Beast Trap is a Fighters Guild ability. You are going to want to get the cost down. Slayer, this will increase your weapon damage by 3% for each Fighters Guild ability slotted. So the 3% increase here on this bar. And of course, when you're on your bow bar, your bow has less weapon damage than your 2 weapons on your front. So not only do we have the Fighters Guild ability here for the 5% bonus from Dawnbreaker, which will plug the gap, but also we receive the extra 3% for it being a Fighters Guild ability. So we actually get 8% on this bar, which is really, really handy. Now, you are going to also need this. This is insane. When you kill Undead, Daedra, or Werewolf, and you will, as long as you get the kill and blow, you get 9 ultimate back. 3 ultimate a second for lights and heavies. 9 ultimate for killing Undead, Daedra, or Werewolf. 20 ultimate for using a potion, and your ultimate only costs 70 points. You can borderline spam this in some situations. It's incredible. Also, finally, your Fighter's Guild abilities deal an additional 20% damage to Undead, Daedra, or Werewolves. So you will want that to increase the damage of your Beast Trap versus those targets. Undaunted, you are going to need these. There are countless synergies in the game. Actually, there aren't countless. There's a certain amount, but there's a lot. Now, you need to make sure you take them. Now, any synergy you take will give you 4% of all resources back. That is absolutely essential. Make sure you take those synergies. Stop listening to people screaming, that's mine. It's not theirs. It's yours as well. Take them. Everyone should take synergies, and if the tank is crying because he hasn't got enough resources, he can go and ask the healer for another spear. This is very essential as well. For each type of armor worn, one heavy, 1 light, and 5 medium. That was correct. We have 2% for each type. So we get 6% across the board for our resources. So max health, max stamina, and max magicka. Assault is not important. Support's not important. We are, of course, a Wood Elf, which means we have a 21% increase to stam recovery, which is bloody nuts. Highest stam recovery bonus in the game. Very, very important, especially on the Nightblade, when you sometimes end up doing a little bit of a spammy rotation. We also have an increased stamina pool of 6%, and our poison and disease resistance is improved as well. Plus, we are immune to poison and disease status effects, which means if we are hit with poison or disease, minor defile will not hit us, and also the damage over time effect from poison will not hit us. We cannot take it. We are immune. Stealthy, this one is detection radius and damage from stealth. We don't really do that in PvE anyway, unless, of course, you are trying to steal stuff. So that's not really that important, but these two are very, very important indeed. You can be any other race you like, especially if you want to go for optimizing stats, if you like. The Khajiit actually did less damage because it had higher crit chance, but lesser stamina, so the flat was actually less. It performed about 2k under on this particular build. The Redguard and the Imperial both did actually do about 2 or 3k more. However, that is because of their flat stamina bonus, and the Imperial I would recommend above the Redguard if you can keep your sustain up, because you get a 12% bonus to max health, and you do heal off your light and heavy attacks with a 10% chance to do so, which also helps alongside your Siphonous Strikes as well, so your survival is up. Choice is yours, you can be whatever race you like, but I really like the Wood Elf. Alchemy. Of course, medicinal use is very, very important. I go through this in every single build video and always have done. I know people have started to finally listen to this, but medicinal use is insane. If you're using crafted potions, and we are, by the way, there is a guide in the link below in the description for alchemy to show you how to level up really, really fast. You can just get this to max, then dump all the points and get medicinal use. Just keep your 3 points in there. We are using weapon power pots, which will grant us major brutality, increasing our weapon damage by 20%. Major savagery, increasing our crit chance by 10%, although it says 2191. I know that can be confusing. And we increase our stamina recovery by 20% in the form of major endurance as well. Now, if you don't have this passive, they'll last 36 seconds. If you do, they'll last 47.6, outweighing the cooldown, which means you can keep these up 100% of the time, which you do want to do, because then you can use more ultimate. So, now we're going to get into the gear. First of all, we're using Unfathomable Darkness on the front bar. We are using both weapons of Unfathomable Darkness, and we're using the jewelry as well. So, 3 pieces of jewelry, all weapon damage enchants, and robust on 2 and bloodthirsty on the other. Both weapons are infused, one with a poison glyph and one with a weapon and spell damage increase. Now, due to infused, like I said before, being changed, I've said it in other videos as well, single target damage over time abilities will apply the glyph to start with, but throughout the duration of the damage over time ability, it won't continuously proc the glyph. You'll have to do additional light or heavy attacks. But we are using Deadly Cloak on our front bar, which again not only gives us mitigation to damage and the damage output, but it counts as an area of effect damage over time ability, which means these two will fire while on our back bar. So if I activate it now and swap bars, look at my buffs, you will see that my weapon glyph just fired. Now that belongs on my front bar. It comes from here. But because I'm using a weapon ability that comes from that bar, those glyphs are now attached to it. Now if you're using a single target damage over time like Rend and Slashes or something like that, that will not apply. But if you have this, it will. The poison glyph is exactly the same, that also fires and does damage to the boss as well. So on the front bar and the back bar, they can activate. Now what this set does, this will give you crit chance, it will give you 1,453 physical penetration, which means you will go through that much of the target's resistance. So from 18,200, this now drops that down by 1.4k. We have a weapon damage increase, and of course when you deal damage of any type, you have a 10% chance to cool down crows. You may have seen them already in the video, and they fire doing damage once every 3 seconds for 12 seconds. So you get 4 hits from it. But after 12 seconds is up, you count 3 seconds and then it can fire again. So it does have a 12-second uptime and 15-second cooldown, but the cooldown applies instantly. So you have a 3-second gap overall where they can fire again. Now this is very, very important. You must keep your damage up basically just to fire it. So if you do any damage whatsoever, they can come out. There they go. There's your crows. Watch, they'll fire and they'll hit the target with direct damage every 3 seconds. Very, very simple. Now the bow itself is extremely powerful. If you don't have it, don't panic. You can of course put an Unfathomable Darkness bow on the back, so then you can guarantee the proc on either side. But if you have the Maelstrom bow, I strongly recommend you use it. It does stupid damage to volley. It increases the damage ticks every time it ticks. Every half a second it gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. But you want an infused bow on the back bar. The monster set we're using is, of course, Krag, as you've probably seen the hands flying out already. This, you want a heavy and a medium. So 2 pieces, the helmet and the shoulders, you want a heavy and a medium, in any order. The resistance is the same regardless of which order the heavy piece is in, no matter what anyway, so it's fine. Now, we've got physical penetration bonus here, again, just like the one from Unfathomable Darkness. And, of course, when you deal damage of any type, you have a 10% chance to spawn those arms that come out of my back. And every 0.4 second for a second and 2, or 1.2 seconds, you will actually do physical damage in area of effect in front of you, in a small area of effect in front of you. Now, this actually gives you 3 ticks of damage and has a 3-second cooldown. So this fires a lot. Every 3 seconds this can fire with a 1.8 second cooldown. It's nuts. Very, very powerful indeed. Really good penetration bonus. I would highly recommend this. I tried Selene, I tried Celestrix, I tried Stormfist, tried many different versions of monster sets and combinations, including Veli and even Valken Scoria and even Zan, which is actually quite nice. And this one outperformed on this particular build, so I highly recommend using this. But if you've got any of the other ones, then you're of course free to use them. Now, the main set that we're using is, of course, Reliquin. Do not panic. Yes, this comes from a trial. It's a very fast-paced trial. It is very popular because this particular set, and Sororia, and Gallenways, and Olorimes, that all come from that particular trial, are extremely popular. So there are many, many, many pickup groups doing this particular trial all day long. In Somerset, Craglorn, Gratwood, wherever it's popular for you on your server, keep your eye out for normal Cloud Rest runs, and you will get in, get this, and get out very, very quickly. It's very easy to obtain, and all you have to do is be brave enough to put your hands up and say, I want to join a random trial. Not on Vet, just go on Normal. If you go on Vet, you can get perfected versions, of course, which will give you 1k extra stamina. But if you go on Normal, you can farm this all day long with no trouble. Most groups don't actually have any trouble completing it, even pickups. Now, of course, failing that, you can host your own. Go into local chat, say host a normal Cloud Rest, tell them what roles you need, and off you go. Very easy to acquire. However, if you don't have this, there are other sets, of course, in the game that you can use. There's plenty of stamina sets out there. I've tried countless different variations of stamina sets, and most of them are around roughly the same sort of results. So you can use Hundins, you can use Briarheart, you can use Swamp Raider as well, which will actually boost your Spectral Bow and your Execute, and of course your Ultimate as well, your Incap. Or you could possibly even use Red Mountain, which is also very, very good results because of the proc and the rate of fire at it actually comes out at, which is very close to the Motor of Fire build. So you can also use that. But I would highly recommend Reliquins if you are capable of using it. Now, what this does is, I'll explain it first of all. It gives you crit chance, minus Slayer increase in all of the damage in Dungeons and Trials by 5%, and it will give you crit chance again. But every light or heavy attack within 1 second of each other will stack a spinning wind on the target, which lasts 5 seconds. Each one will add an additional 276 damage per second to the winds. And you can stack this up to 20 times. But if you let it fall off, it's gone. So ignore the budgies, just look at the wind. There it is. Lasts for 5 seconds. Stack another one, and another one. You can see the buff timer up there. It's up to 3, it's up to 4, it's up to 5. You can stack that 20 times, and that will continuously do damage every second. Now, if you stop doing damage, you stop your light attacks or you stop your heavies, regardless of what bow you're on, that will fall off and all your damage is gone. Your 5k extra DPS for doing just light and heavies is gone. So you have to keep an eye on that. If you fail to do that repeatedly, you need another set because you're not going to perform with it. But inside mechanics, here's a little tip for you. If you are doing lights and heavies and all the rest of it, and you're doing your rotations and you have to get out for mechanics, do a couple with a light attack on your bow just to keep the procs up, and then come back in again. Make sure that keeps spinning. If you lose it, you may as well not be wearing it. Now, another choice you can use, of course, is Alkosh. Alkosh is similar stats, actually. You get weapon crit, you get minus AR, and you get a weapon damage bonus, not crit. And the last one is if you take a synergy, you'll do a shockwave of damage in front of you, doing physical damage by about 2.5k, and you'll do a 17k damage over time effect for 10 seconds for every single target hit, plus you'll debuff the target by 3k. Physical and spell resistance, which is very beneficial for you and your group. But those damage over time procs from your synergy stack. So the more synergies you take, the more damage you will do. Being 17k over 10 seconds, your damage per second per synergy is 1.7k. So if you have 3-ish synergies, you'll probably match the same sort of damage as this, except it's AoE as well, and you apply debuff. If you have 4 synergies plus actively, or even more in fact, you will outperform this set, if you can aim it straight. So your choices here are really Reliquin or Alkosh, depending on the situation. But if you can't use either one of the two, they're a little too advanced for you, then don't worry, you can just put Red Mountain or Briarheart or Hundens even for the time being, if you want, and you'll do just fine. Yes, the damage will be lower, but yes, you will still perform and hit way over 40k. Now, we use it on the chest, the belt, the hands, the legs, and the feet. You want divines on all small pieces. So hands, feet, belt, and shoulder divines, helmet, chest, and legs infused. Again, on the jewelry, weapon damage on everything, robust, bloodthirsty. It's very, very important that you get the traits correct. Divines, obviously, you do want to get that as soon as possible, but it's not going to be the end of the world if you don't. But the infused ones you want for the max stamina, otherwise you can be slightly under 34k. Obviously, the higher the better. Now, champion points, first of all. Then we'll go into rotation. Pretty standard stuff as far as most of my builds are concerned. Very, very similar stats on the first 2 trees, so the red stuff and the green stuff. But you can change them depending on the content that you're in, because some will require you to alter your CPs for certain resistance types and stuff like that. So 72 points into Ironclad to reduce incoming direct damage by 23%. 64, 64, and 51. So we have a reduction to poison, disease, physical, frost, shock, magic, and flame. Exactly the same across the board, plus any damage over time that they are affected by as well. Plus you've also got Unchained. If you are low on stamina and you do have to break free, don't forget, this will make your next stamina ability cost 80% less. So throw out a sneaky vigor or a sneaky caltrops, and that will be quite beneficial because it will be much, much cheaper. 19 points into quick recovery, so that we get the field physician passive, first of all, for having 10 points in there, but also so we get a 5% bonus to healing received. So any heals that we do for ourselves or get from other people will be improved. This is really important. I've said this in every single build video ever since November 2016. 10 points in this tree will unlock this. You will need to resurrect other people at some point. And for doing so, you will receive less damage. 15% less damage, in fact, while you're doing it. So pop on a Vigor, get your res in, then carry on. You must get this passive. It is essential. Otherwise, you're going to be resin people basically no clothes on. You're just going to get wrecked. This mitigation makes a big difference. 44 points into Warlord in case you have to break free, get the cost down. 75 into Tenacity. We are going to be heavy attacking. I will show you that in the rotation, and that will increase our stamina return by 14%, and also our recovery is improved by 14% as well. Do not put any more points in there, because if you do, the extra 25 points will only give you 1% extra. It's not worth it. 76 into Tumbling. You only need 72 here to actually get the 23% bonus, but I've got 4 points left. There's nothing I'm doing with it, so I'll put them all in here. That way I can still unlock the treasure passive, so I can get better loot. From chests, by the way. Higher quality. Now, 19 points into Physical Weapons Expert, increasing our light and heavy attack damage by 12%. We are going to do a shit ton of light and heavies. We are going to need this. Also, 56 points into Master at Arms, increasing all of our direct damage that we do. Not all of our damage is direct. We do have a lot of damage over time. We do have a nice balanced amount of direct damage as well. If you spec too much into this and not enough into damage over time, or vice versa, you're going to suffer. So this is balanced out. I did try 9 and 66 in here. It didn't work out. This actually worked out a lot better for me, based on the build setup anyway. This also is opened because we spent 75 points in this tree, and this will give us an increased 5% extra damage to all of our light and heavy attacks while the target is below 25%. So that's very important as well. Not for all builds, but for this particular one, this did actually help. 48 points into Thaumaturge. Now, any dot builds that I do, I normally go up to about 72 in this, because it seems to be quite a nice sweet spot and top end of diminished returns. But for this particular build, obviously, we want a little bit more direct damage, so we'll put some points into here as far as we can go without overspending and missing out on other bonuses. So 48 points is just fine. It contributes to all of our damage over time skills we've got, and of course to our Reliquant. This one here, Precise Strikes, we do a lot of crit damage. We do have a bonus to it on our passives. We have a bonus to it with our minor force from our Beast Trap, and this further improves the actual damage we do from crits as well. So get 48 points into here, 35 points into Piercing, giving us a 3k physical penetration bonus, which is also very, very nice indeed. I'll explain that in a moment. 64 points into Mighty, so all of our physical, disease, and poison damage is improved by 13%. And of course, we've got the Exploiter passive for having more than 75 points in this tree, or 75 or more, because that would mean anything that goes off balance will improve our overall damage by 10% during that period. Off balance periods are 5 seconds up, 15 seconds down on all bosses. Now, this part here. Now, as far as penetration is concerned, we've got 3k here in our champion points. We've got 3.4 roughly with the Lover Stone if you go all Divines. We've got, with the last one Divine, sorry, because I've got an Impen trait. You have 5280 penetration with your Surprise Attack. You also have just under 3k with our 2 sets, Unfathomable Darkness and Krag. And of course, that puts us to around 14.6, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. And that will still give us room to hit that 18200, because if we have a further 3k from Alkosh, that will put us to 17k, and then just a simple Crusher without even being infused, or a Minor Fracture will actually put us to cap. Now, if you overcap a little bit, that's not necessarily a problem, because your area of effect enemies will actually take more damage, because they aren't being debuffed as much as the main target. Remember, Crushers do not affect multiples, they only affect a single target. But of course, if you do find you're in an optimized situation and you've got much more penetration than you need, you've got 2 options. You can either drop this down a bit and put it into Thaumaturge, or you can leave it where it is, take off the Lava Mundustone, replace it with the Thief, and you'll have a lot more crits. Choice is yours. Now, we're going to go into Rotation. Now, this is, for some people, somewhat confusing. The Nightblade has some awkward timers and some very strange skills, and there are a lot of things you have to keep an eye on. However, I'm going to make it simple for you in comparison to most. Now, also, get it out of your brain that Nightblades come with a rotation. They do not come with a rotation. Rotations are created by content creators. When you make a Nightblade, go into tutorial, see if you can find the rotation button. There isn't one. You have to make them. And for this particular build, I have something in place that will help you. Now, remember, this skill here requires 5 light attacks or 2 heavy attacks and a light attack at least to be able to stack 5 ticks. Remember, 1 light attack is 1 tick, 1 heavy attack is 2. So every time those 5 are ready, you can fire a bow. Now, that's a lot to keep an eye on while you're going through a rotation. However, I've made a rotation that will help. Now, stay with me here because we've got a lot of things to go over. Leech and Strikes, you need to keep up. Relentless Focus, you need to keep up. They must be active before the fight starts. Deadly Cloak, if you can help it. When you go into the fight, you want your Beast Trap down and you want to swap bars. Do not go in bursting with your ultimate because you are not hitting any major skills at the moment. Endless Hail, Light Attack. Poison Injection, Light Attack again, Caltrops, and swap. Now, if your bow is ready, which it won't be, we'll go over that in a minute, then you could fire it. But what you need to do is you need to Heavy Attack, Surprise Attack. Heavy Attack, Surprise Attack. That is 2 and 2. 2 stacks and 2 stacks. We've got 1 more left. Light Attack and then Relentless Focus. You don't even have to look at it. Don't wait for that purple to appear. As soon as you press that Light Attack, it's guaranteed to be ready. Heavy Attack is 2 stacks. Heavy Attack is 2 stacks again. Light Attack is 1 stack. That's 5. So heavy, heavy, light, hit. Heavy, heavy, light, hit. This may not make a lot of sense at the moment, so we're going to explain it in the rotation and show you on the skeleton. But before we do that, once your bow has fired, you Light Attack, Deadly Cloak. Light Attack, Relentless Focus again, even though there's no bow, just to keep the uptime. Light Attack, Beast Trap, swap. Now, this is very tricky because your approach is going to be more spammy than your static. Your static rotation is going to be the same every single rotation, no matter what. But your first one is going to have a different setting because of your burst. Now, when you first initially hit the fight, you need these 2 buffs up. You need Leech and Strikes and you need Relentless Focus. Get Deadly Cloak on straight away, get in and put your Beast Trap down and swap bars. Now you want Volley, Light Attack, Poison Injection, Light Attack, Caltrops, swap. Now if your ultimate's ready, hit it. Light Attack, Surprise Attack. Light Attack, Surprise Attack. Light Attack, Bow. Light Attack, Surprise Attack again. Light Attack, Surprise Attack again. Light Attack, Deadly Cloak. Light Attack, Relentless Focus to reapply it or update it. Light Attack, Poison, Beast Trap, and swap. You might want to rewind that. Now that was your fast-paced introduction to the fight. From there onwards, after your Beast Trap has fired, Endless Hail, light attack, Poison Injection, light attack, Leeching Strikes, light attack, Caltrops, swap. If your bow is ready, you will fire it, which it will be, guaranteed. Then it's Heavy Surprise, light attack bow, light attack, Deadly Cloak, light attack, Relentless Focus, light attack, Beast Trap, swap. In that order. Volley, light, poison, light, leeching, light, Caltrops, swap. Bow is ready. Heavy Surprise, bow's ready now, light attack, hit it. There it is. Light Deadly, light Relentless, light Beast Trap, swap. Volley, light, poison, light, leeching, light, Caltrops, swap. Now I'm going to do that again. I'm going to go over top of it. I'm going to do the fast part first, then I'm going to show you the static rotation. Now remember very carefully to pay attention to your skills, because Relentless Focus mustn't run out because you want Minor Berserk all the time. So that's why we reapply it when we've used it, because we want to keep it up when we swap bars. Leech and Strikes, when reapplied, will give us whatever stamina pool it has accumulated over time, whether it's about to run out or not. And it will give us 2 ultimates. We want to keep this up all the time, as well as keep an eye on our potions. Now I'm going to show you the introduction to the fight. He's already aggroed, so he's not going to account for anything. It's not going to show you any actual DPS numbers as such. But I'm going to show you fast-paced and speak over it what this should look like. Your initial introduction to the fight should have these 2 buffs on. Deadly Cloak should be on. Beast Trap, swap. Volley, light. Poison, light. Caltrops, swap. Light ultimate. Light surprise attack. Light surprise attack again. Light bow. Light surprise attack. Light surprise attack. Light deadly. Light relentless. Light beast trap, swap. Now it gets easier. Volley, light. Poison, light. Leechings, light. Caltrops, swap. Bow's ready. Guaranteed. Heavy surprise. Heavy surprise. Light relentless. Light deadly cloak. Light relentless. Light beast trap, swap. Volley, light, poison, light, leeching, light, caltrops, swap. Bow's ready. Fire the bow. Heavy relentless, sorry, heavy surprise twice, light bow. Now we'll do the whole rotation again. Now watch every single time when I swap bars. Light poison, light leeching, light caltrops. The bow's always ready. Fire it. Heavy surprise. Heavy surprise. Light hit the bow, it's ready. Light deadly, light relentless, light beast trap, swap. It's always ready every time you swap bars if you keep to that rotation. It is guaranteed if you stick to it. Obviously you got your fast paced one first, but the second part of the rotation, as long as you stick to that throughout the entire fight, every time you swap to the front bar, you're guaranteed a bow proc. Every time you heavy surprise twice, then light attack, the bow will be ready. We're going to give you an example of that just one more time. So we'll get a couple procs here ready for it. Now we'll swap to the back bar. This is what it should look like. It's going to be ready on my bar. Ready now. Heavy surprise attack. Heavy surprise attack. Now the reason I press light attack relentless, even though it's not there, is because I know it's coming. Light bow. Light deadly. Light relentless. Light beast trap, swap. Simple as that. So always fire it when you swap to the front bar. Heavy attack with surprise attack twice to get 4 ticks. Then you are guaranteed that your next light attack will fire it. And that is how you get 2 bow procs on the front bar every single rotation. Now that is complicated for most, but it's a lot less complicated than just keep an eye on it and press it when you've done 5 light attacks. How many people actually count that up without an add-on? Not many. So for the final time, we'll get a couple procs here so we can start the rotation. Imagine we've just burst into the fight and we've done our first one. Volley, light, poison, light, leeching, light, caltrops, swap. Bow is ready. Heavy surprise attack. Heavy surprise attack. Light bow. Light, deadly, light, relentless, light, beast trap, swap. Volley, light, poison, light, leeching, light, swap. Caltrops. Ultimate, if it's ready, fire your bow. Heavy surprise, light bow. Every time. Heavy surprise, light bow. Heavy surprise, light bow. On that bar. You'll guarantee it's ready. Keep watching. There it is. Heavy surprise. Light bow. You can guarantee it. Every single time without fail. Don't do this, by the way. Don't fire ultimate and swap bars. Save it for your front bar. Always get your leeching fired. Bow's ready. You get the idea. So, As long as you do 2 heavies and 1 light, you're always guaranteed to get that second bow, and you should have the first one when you swap bars. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing, because it is really tricky to keep an eye on multiple buffs at the same time, as well as keeping an eye on your Reliquin procs, these windy spinny things. Got to keep an eye on them too. If that was confusing, that will be on the website. The guide is going to be very, very soon, in the next couple of days or so, hopefully. But you are going to have to keep an eye on these 2 buffs above all. Watch your lights, watch your heavies. Initial burst, remember, your first rotation. Not the rest of them, just the first one. Keep your buffs up. Beast trap swap, volley, light poison, light caltrop swap, hit your ultimate, fire your bow if you've got it, then light spam 4 times. Bow in between there whenever it's ready, if it is. Now, execute. 25% and under. Keep your rotation going. Exactly the same as what you've been doing, but instead of using surprise attack, because the tank should be holding the taunt anyway, you'll be using your execute, your killer's blade. Now, if it's very, very low health and you know you can kill it in a couple of spams, obviously light attack, hit, light attack, hit, light attack, hit, keep your dots up. If you are struggling for stamina and it's got a lot more health than that, you are going to have to sustain your execute, which most people don't have to do on a target dummy, which means stick to 2 heavies and 1 light with this instead of this. Now, I'm going to show you a quick demonstration on the target dummy. We do not have a tank with us today because I don't need Major Fracture because I already have it. It's in my rotation. So just bear that in mind. So if you see any stamina DPS test done by me that has a tank in it, I'm applying that debuff, which is above the boss's head right now. That is a debuff. It's exactly the same. Right, here. So hopefully that helped, hopefully that wasn't too confusing, hopefully you now have some kind of understanding as to how to run this particular build. It is tricky to start with, but that rotation is flawless. You will be guaranteed, if you get it correct, 1 bow at the beginning of the rotation and 1 bow towards the end of the front bar. Every single time. If you balls it up, it's not going to work. If you get it right, it's going to work every single time. And you will no longer have to keep an eye on your bow procs, or have to count them, or even really use add-ons or anything to do so. 2 heavies, 1 light, job done. Anyway, hopefully that helped. First of all, thank you all very much for watching. I hugely appreciate the support. And if you are not subscribing, please do hit that button. It is free. Furthermore, if you would like to support outside of the channel, there are some links in the description for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, and of course the website XynodeGaming.com. And of course, there's a link for Twitch as well, where I live stream almost every night from 10 PM UK time onwards. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.